And Andrew Wommack has been going beyond what has been asked of him in Colorado. And just recently, fill me in, Tim, on what happened. The governor of Colorado.
Yeah, actually, the attorney general of Colorado issued a cease and desist order against Andrew Wommack and his ministry
during a conference.
A conference they were having there on their property, and another event that they were about to have. And he spoke with Mike Garofalo, our own Mike Garofalo, just yesterday. And here is some of what he had to say. Mike takes us through what happened, and Andrew gives us some insight as to what we're dealing with as Christians.
Okay, Andrew, thanks for taking the time to talk about this.
You're welcome.
Let's begin by talking about the cease and desist order you got. Just paint the picture for us.
Well, we've been cooperating with all of the requirements that they put out since I think it was in February, and we've got 650 employees, and we actually shut down to where we had less than 8%. It was approved by the health department, and we've been operating under that. We're now at a level where they're saying we could have 50% of our staff on site. We're only up to 25%. So we've been complying. They've called us the poster child for compliance, and so we've been complying. But at the end of May, when there were some statements made about that these lockdown and restrictions might continue until there is a vaccination or a cure, I just thought that this is never ending, and that they're going to literally start telling us when we can hold meetings and when we can't. And I complied voluntarily, but I believe we have a constitutional right to meet. And especially when you compare this with protest, where there's thousands and thousands of people with no restrictions on anything. And we, at our meetings, we've been having temperature checks. My staff are wearing masks. We have cleaned this place top to bottom. We've instituted everything, and even when they came back and gave us added things, we've complied. And so during this thing, we actually had some EMTs that were on site, and they did temperature checks, asked questions. We did everything, but they said that we could only have 175 people. And I just think that that's too restrictive. So we opened it up, and this meeting that we just got through with on the 3rd of July, we had about 1,000 people, maybe 200 to 250 of those were children in a separate place. And our auditorium seats 3,200 people. And then our other auditoriums are 1,200 and 600, so we could accommodate 5,000 people, and it's not like we were all crammed in here. So that's what we've been doing, and the city, we worked with them, and they expressed their opposition to us having over 175, but I told them that I think we have the constitutional right. So we were working with them, and I thought things were going fairly good, and then we got the cease and desist order on the 2nd of July, and we had to comply with it by the 3rd.
So what went through your mind when you got that, when you saw it?
Well, we were surprised, to tell you the truth, because we had been in contact with everybody, but I don't want to be, rebellious. We've tried to cooperate, and I've been a part of this community since 1983, is when I moved to Woodland Park. And so we've tried to comply, but I really feel like that if we back down on this, that basically we are surrendering our constitutional rights. And they have made statements like this could go on through the rest of 2020. It could go into 2021. The next thing that comes up, I mean, we basically are just giving up our rights. And there's a lot of things to consider besides just the virus. I mean, this is hurting people financially. And contrary to what many people believe, I think that the church is essential. I don't think it's non-essential. And so we are doing a service and ministering to people, and I think that there's a lot more to consider than only the virus. So we are still taking steps to comply, but as far as the numbers, I just decided that if I give in here, in a sense, I'm giving up my rights and empowering them.
Now, you were in the middle of the week of the Family Bible Conference when you got the cease and desist.
We were.
So what did you do that next day?
We had to comply by 9 o'clock on Friday morning, and so we sat and all of our leadership talked about it, and basically I just made the decision that I can't give up on this, and so we contacted Liberty Counsel, and Liberty Counsel is representing us, and they're advising us on this. And so we sent a letter back to the Attorney General saying that, we'll comply as much as we can, but this 175 limit in a place that'll seat 5,000 people and stuff is just not right, and that we are going to go ahead and hold our meetings. So our meeting was over on Friday, the 3rd, at noon, and so really there was no time for them to respond and do anything. But then on the 4th, we had a musical production that we had already advertised, and we decided to go ahead and hold it. And we had a lot of people show up, and so that's where we are at the moment. We have responded to them, and we haven't gone any further than that. So this week we're going to find out what the next steps are.
So what has the state attorney general said to your lawyers in respect to they didn't show up and try to stop the performance?
No, we haven't had anybody try and stop us yet, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We're still, I don't think we've finalized that. It would be wonderful to see this just resolved, but when they responded today, the communication we got today, it was much more conciliatory than what it had been earlier last week, but they were still holding to the 175 limit. And we have another conference that's coming up in August. I'm not sure the exact date. I think it's the 13th, 14th, something like that. And that's our largest conference of the year. And in the past, we've had 2,000 people show for that. And I'm planning on going ahead with it. And so we are at an intersection where we don't agree on things, and I don't know exactly how it's going to work out.
So when you have these protests going on around the country where hundreds, in some cases thousands of people are there, they're all packed together, you hear the political leaders in certain states and certain cities saying, it's okay, do what you need to do to get your message out there. And then you have leaders like the Attorney General in Colorado reach out to you. So it just doesn't all add up in respect to trying to do the social distancing, keep the spread of the virus, which is now obviously becoming a problem again in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it's discriminatory. I really do. I mean, if they were applying things across the board, that might be different, but it's not even close. They've actually encouraged the protest. And the protests have many more people than what we've got. They're practicing no social distancing. They're screaming and yelling, spitting on people. Of course, all of the rioting and looting and et cetera. And then these box stores, they have no limits on how many people can come into there. And yet they restrict Christian assembly, where we are taking precautions that none of these other places are doing. And so I believe it's just because they don't deem us essential. And that certainly, I mean, this is the First Amendment, is that they cannot make laws restricting the free exercise of religion and the ability to assemble and things like that. And if anybody falls under the First Amendment, I believe it's the church.
So what do you think when you see the monuments being pulled down, the statues being pulled down, and in some cases, like the other day in Baltimore, police just stepping back and doing nothing?
I think it's terrible. And there is much more going on than just people protesting the death of George Floyd and a few other people. And again, there's no way that anybody supports any type of unjustified thing like that. And I don't support that. But when you look at the fact that we have nearly 800,000 police officers, if you were to have 12 cases a year, which I don't even think we have close to that, but if you had that many, it is a fraction of a percentage, and the vast majority of our police officers are doing a great job. And this is just mob rule. I think there's a lot of people that may not know what they're doing, but there are people who do know what they're doing, and I think that this is organized. You don't have people drop off bricks where a protest is going to happen without some organization. And I think people are funding it, and it is an opportunity. People are using this as an opportunity to literally try and overthrow everything that this government stands for. They would love to see anarchy so that they could rise up and take power. And I think it's ungodly what's going on. And so I can't deal with everything. I can deal with what I can do, and I just feel like I've got to do my part.
And speaking about anarchy, you've got the Black Lives Matter movement that many are afraid to speak out against. If you say all lives matter, I mean, some people have lost their jobs over that.
That's right. That's terrible. And you know what? Again, I think that there are people who are sincere And there is racism in our country. There always has been. There always will be. But it's not really black on white. It's just evil. And it's evil when people hate another person because of the color of their skin. So yes, it exists. And because of it, there are some people that are feeling like they're doing the right thing. But this Black Lives Matter, if you go to their own website, they are against the traditional family. They are pushing the LGBTQ thing. And this, I may get her name wrong, but Prentice Colors, I think, is one of the 3 women who organized Black Lives Matter. She said, and I heard her say this during an interview, that they are trained Marxists and they are out to destroy this. And then the guy who leads the Black Lives Matter in New York City, he said, you either give us what we want or we will burn it down and take it. So again, there may be people who are in this that are innocent and being manipulated, but it is organized and it's anarchy. And tearing down these monuments and things like this, at the very least, you could say people are ignorant and they don't know what they're doing because they're tearing down the monuments of people that were abolitionists, people who fought against slavery and all of this stuff. They don't even know what they're doing. And so at the very least, people are ignorant. But I believe, again, that it is an opportunity to try and take away all of the godly history that we have and unplug people from that so that they can easily be manipulated. I think it's an organized effort.
So what can the average American do if they're sitting there at home, they're watching some of this go on, and they don't agree with it, but at the same time, they're like, well, if I speak out, what's going to happen to me? But if you sit back and let something like that continue to happen, you're almost as guilty as condoning it.
I just got an email from Mario Murillo today, and he was comparing this to a wedding when they said, does anybody oppose this wedding? Speak now or forever hold your peace. And he was saying that if we don't stand up and say something, then it's going to be one of those situations where we will forever hold our peace. This is a crisis time in our nation, and Christians have to speak out. And I also heard Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, and he was saying that in history, when they look back, that the whites who did not stand up for civil rights will be shamed and stuff. And I think we're at a place now where there are a lot of blacks that don't agree with this, and they know that this isn't the way to do things, and yet they get shamed. They get shamed even more so than whites do if they stand up. But it is a time that history is going to look back on this, and if we survive, and if this nation survives and goes back to being a godly nation, they will look back on the blacks who did not stand up and were manipulated by the Black Lives Matter and these other things, and they're going to look back and they'll shame them. So we need to stand up and make a stand.
In respect to the presidential election, you've got, of course, President Trump having to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. And then now you've got the protest. It's almost like whatever he does is wrong, at least according to certain factions of the society. Your thoughts?
Well, he is being slandered, I think, more than any president that we've ever had. It is totally unfair. The news media is a fake news media. I was on a call today with a bunch of evangelicals, and they have done a survey of nearly 2 million people, and Trump is ahead 2-1 over anything. But the news media, again, is presenting it just the opposite. They're being manipulated, and I actually believe, this is what I'm praying for, that all of these protests, what they have done, they have pushed the issue so far that I'm praying that even people who are on the fence are going to see that, man, what is the alternative to Trump? It is anarchy. It's all of this weirdness that we see, and I actually believe it's going to work against them and that we're going to have a landslide, not only of Trump being elected, but hopefully we'll gain back the House and retain the Senate, and that we'll see some really good things happen.